Hello and welcome back to another episode of the United Front Football Podcast with me and Mr. Breezy. I will address the elephant in the room. I look like I've been crying. It is allergies. It's my story and I'm sticking to it. I've just watched United get pummeled by Palace, so either could be true, but the antihistamines aren't working at the minute. Maybe it is.
The level of sympathies would be about the same regardless, whatever version it is.
So welcome back, guys. Apologies for the no episode last week. I was having a lot of electronics works done, and all the electrics are in my office, so that's why. But we're back this week, and boy, have we had some football happen to our football clubs. But before we get into that, as always, we will start with your Twitter hot takes. Don't forget to get involved with our socials. It's at United Frontcast everywhere. We put out a tweet just before, the day of recording, asking for your football hot takes and other football-related opinions, and we'll pick the best ones and laugh at you online. We'll start off with Mr. Cookie and Keeney as well. It says, where do you think both Leicester and Ipswich will finish next season? And Keeney asks, with Ipswich coming up, do you think the quality and financial gap between the Premier League and Championship being so big, other teams they'll likely go back down, basically? We obviously saw this year the three that came up. If it wasn't for points deductions from the other teams around them, I think they'd have pretty handily been relegated. Luton have shown a lot of fight, a lot of heart. To say it's just fight and heart is a bit incorrect. They've shown some really good football. They've played some really good stuff, and I just think the quality is shown over the course of the season. But do you see the same happening for the teams coming up next year? I'll be brutally honest myself. I've not watched tons of Championship football this year. Obviously, Leicester I'm more au fait with, but Ipswich I've caught games here and there. I'm not too sure about yourself.
Yeah, I've caught a bit of Ipswich, mainly towards the back end of the season, just because obviously with the promotion race heating up. Because I think there was a lot of the early part of the season, it's like, they're doing really well. It won't last though, and then obviously they just sort of kept winning. But yeah, so towards the back end of the season, I caught a fair few of their games, and yeah, they look really, really impressive. I don't think they play it's not like a Burnley thing where it's all about lovely football and they do play nice stuff, but
sorry, you just saying it's not a Burnley thing where they play lovely football. It's just a weird thing.
Yeah.
That Burnley total football that they're famous for.
Sorry, Burnley when they were in the Championship, I should say, not whatever the fuck they're doing now, but it feels a lot more sort of like a high. It's more of like a high pressing game, sort of like smothering teams and then sort of just sort of attacking all at once sort of thing. From the very limited time that I've seen, I'm probably completely wrong. Feel free to have go at me, Ipswich fans, if I'm way off the mark there. But no, from what I've seen, they've one fully deserved to go up. Will it work in the Premier League? It's difficult to say. I was talking about it on the stream last night, and from the sounds of it, I think only a couple of their players are in on loan, and I think that's something we've seen previously. I think Forest had a similar issue, and Burnley have had an issue where a lot of their better players they had in the promotion season were players who've been on loan, and they just weren't able to get them back for the following year in the Premier League. Whereas I don't think Ipswich really. I think Kiefer Moore's on loan. I don't think they'll be that bothered about getting him back really, because I think he was more of a super sub option. And I think Amari Hutchinson might be on loan from Arsenal, so that might be one that they might try and get him back on loan again, or maybe try and get him permanently. But it's one of them where it'll be very difficult for them to come up, especially since they've made the jump from League One and then the Championship, then straight back into the Premier League. It is going to be tough, and obviously you question how much money they're going to have to spend. I don't know what their finances have been like over the last few years, but like I say, coming from League One, right? But I think I saw a tweet today. I lost about 19 million in the year they were in League One or something like that. So to go straight into the Premier League, or have one season in the Championship and then go straight into the Premier League, financially, it might have some repercussions in terms of what they can and can't spend in the summer. But look, if they're able to utilise the loan market well, if they're able to get some decent free agents in, and then you imagine they'll be able to spend a fair bit of money, maybe 20, 30 million might be enough. And
you'd think
that might be enough to get a few players in to sort of just at least make them competitive, right?
Well, you'd think with them going back to back promotions, they've probably got a really low wage budget. So the amount of money that they're going to be coming into will probably free up a bit of cash to spend. But I guess we'll see. I think it's been a really good year from them. Like I said, I've not watched loads of them, but my kind of takeaways been the same as you. Play really kind of, I don't want to say overly direct, but really kind of swift, incisive, high intensity football. And if they can make it work in the Premier League, then then yeah, they'll be at least entertaining to watch. I think it's not been like, you know, a proper softball team coming up like that has happened in the past, which is to be fair becoming a bit of a thing of the past. I think there's more and more teams that are like coming up, and even if they do play solid defensive football, like Brentford are a really good example, right? They're still really like, you know, got a lot of attacking intent, still play some really good football, still create a lot of really good chances, high quality chances. It's just been this year, I think it's been a bit of a low in terms of the quality of the players coming up. Whereas I think with teams like Leicester and Ipswich next year, there's going to be, well, maybe not Ipswich so much, but like Leicester definitely, like it feels like they're a Premier League club that just ended up in the Championship, to be honest.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because I think it's obviously very highly rumoured they're going to start next season with a points deduction because I think due to loss they made in the year they went down. But depending on what that points deduction is, like if you'd be probably looking around 8 to 10 or 6 to 10 points given what Everton and Forest have had this year, so that'll be a bit of a mountain to overcome. But they've still got, like, you look at some of the players in their squad. I know a few of them are out of contract, but now they've gone up, they might be able to get them on new deals. But I think like, you know, Iheanacho, Ndidi, Ricardo Pereira's still there, like Kieran Dewsbury Hall. They want to keep a hold of him. They've got like a good core of players there, and if they can sort of add to that a little bit, then I see no reason why Leicester shouldn't be looking to stay in the league. And like I say, for Ipswich, someone asked me the question. It's like, oh, if they struggled, can you see the board panicking and sacking McKenna halfway through and try and get like a firefighter in? I hope they don't. Like, I hope it's kind of like, in a weird way, I think with Ipswich, it might be just I hope they're only sort of realise, like, without sort of being too patronising here, just being in the Premier League for a year will be massive for that club. And then, you know, even if they do end up coming back down, it puts them in a really good, similar to Luton, might probably puts them in a really good position to try and come back up the following season, or at least stabilise in the Championship and stay in the top half of the Championship and try and work towards coming back. So yeah, I hope they don't do anything like that and panic and get rid of McKenna, because I think the job he's done is absolutely fantastic, and it'd be really good to see him get a chance to sort of show what he can do with maybe some new recruits, or maybe a lot of the same players he had from this season in the Premier League next year. Really looking forward to seeing what they can bring.
Yeah, definitely, and I think it's shown this year. There's a lot of teams misfiring. Like, there's a lot of teams who are expected to be like solid mid-table teams that have been dragged down into, or like at least lower mid-table. I mean, again, Brentford being the perfect example, had a really off season. So if like they have a repeat of that, or if we see like a few other teams like drop off, like maybe some teams are going to lose some of their better players. It's going to be a big summer. It's going to be an interesting season next year. But we obviously still are waiting to find out who will come up through the playoffs. But in terms of the two that are already nailed on to be in the Premier League next year, it should be interesting. Good football with Ipswich, and like I say, not that I don't think Leicester could get dragged into a relegation fight. I think they'll be aiming for like that lower mid-table, I think, at least. Like, you know, you want to be solid by March, April, I think. You know, like if you're Leicester, because as far as I'm aware, they've still got like a massive wage bill, and like their outgoings are going, so they can't really afford to go back down again.
Yeah, I'm going to make a very early prediction. I think Maresca is going to be one of the first managers to lose his job next year.
Really?
Like, not in terms of like, because I think he's done well to get them promoted, but I think most managers could probably get Leicester out of the Championship this year, just with the quality they've got compared to all the other teams. But I know, like, I've got a Leicester, like, I think Scott Chapman, we got a question from later on, he's a Leicester fan, and you've seen a little bit of sort of criticism from the Leicester fans at Maresca this season, despite the fact they've been top of the league for so long, and obviously they nearly threw it all away. They had a really bad run a couple months ago. I don't know. I think, like I said, for Leicester, they can't afford to go down, and I think if Maresca gets off to a bad start, I just think he'll be one of the first ones to go, and they'll get someone a little bit more steady Eddie to come in. I don't know, maybe like Scottish or something. Who knows?
Who's recently won a European Cup, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see.
I've always thought. I mean, just as a slight aside, I've always thought that Graham Potter would be like a nailed-on idea for Leicester. Like, yeah, that's a similar kind of size club to Brighton. Like, has you know the philosophy and all that kind of stuff. But
yeah,
we'll see. The guys just got them promoted, and we're already saying who the next manager's going to be.
I'm getting off the bat straight away.
Yeah. Let's get in there.
It's so far away. If I'm wrong, I'm like, I don't remember saying that. No,
Yeah. I can just delete this bit from YouTube. You know, it's like...
Yeah, exactly. Well, speaking of Scott, like I said, Leicester fan Scott Chapman, he's coming saying just before Chelsea got smashed 5 by Arsenal, I said I thought they'd finish above United. Understandably, you'd laughed as you recorded after Chelsea got smashed. Currently, before United played tonight, they're below Chelsea. United play Arsenal on Sunday. Will I be right? Well, again, very aptly timed given what's happened this evening.
Oh no, I think we'll beat Palace tonight.
Bum bum bum.
I mean, to be fair, we've been laughing at Chelsea all year, so I could even agree that they're going to finish above United. Like that's some kind of achievement this year.
Yeah. Shows how low the bar is now.
Yeah, it's like just 2 terrible teams trying to like see who could finish on top, like above each other. We do play Arsenal at the weekend, but I said to Joe, who we're both now on Twitter before, it would surprise me if Anthony scored a 95th minute winner in that game. So
yeah, it would be the most in-character thing for United this season.
Oh yeah, like just be absolutely dire for 2 months, but cost Arsenal the title. It's not perfect. the ultimate villain.
Yeah.
But yeah, is it that much of an achievement to finish above this United side, basically?
It's been a race for the Conference League, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like, is it too late to relegate us? Like at this point,
yeah.
It's just we've been terrible. It's been widely publicised, and we've literally got less than half of our squad available right now, and it's no excuse or anything like that. But when you're looking at who's available, it's like, all right, let's rush back Johnny Evans because he's the only centre-back at the club who's got working limbs. It's like, Jesus Christ, man. Like, what a mess. What an absolute just dumpster fire.
Yeah. I think it's worth saying. I think Chelsea have been... I know they got beat by Arsenal very recently, but it does feel like the tide is slowly turning in Chelsea's favour. Like, the Arsenal result aside, it feels like they're slowly starting to get to... find some level of consistency. I mean, obviously, battering a very crap West Ham side isn't like the pinnacle of anything, but like I don't know. It just feels like there's a little bit more of a settled 11 there now, a little bit more of an understanding of what Poch wants to do, and obviously Cole Palmer's been a massive part of that, of course. But
I've been saying it all year. Like when I've watched Chelsea play, and even from the start of the season, they've actually been pretty good. There's just been a load of individual mistakes that have cost them goals, and none of their forwards could hit the barn door. Like that was it for the entire season, and it feels like there's just a little bit of confidence, and they're all starting to click. And obviously Cole Palmer's been amazing this year, but it feels like they've got a bit of a balance. People are starting to get used to each other. Like there's a huge turnaround. If there's any example why you shouldn't turn over so like 10 players in the season were so many, and I'm as guilty of this for United because I genuinely feel like we should get rid of 10 players this year, but like because they're just useless. But that's just such an example of why it takes so long for players to get used to playing with each other and with a new manager. It's one thing to drop 2 or 3 players into a system when it's half of a new team. And it's constantly changing because you've got so many players and players coming back from injury and stuff. It's just, you're never going to get any consistency there. And I think, like I say, they've shown in flashes some really good football. They've got a little bit of confidence. They've, strung a few performances together. And they actually look an half-decent side now. I was actually looking at the expected goals table. And I know, like, XG is much of a muchness. But it's a good barometer of, like, where teams are, like, matching up with the kind of chances they're creating and how potent they are. Chelsea, like on the XG table, they're up in 4th. Like so that they've not scored as many goals as they should, and they've conceded too many. But like the chances that they're creating and like how the amount of chances they're not conceding, like they're actually doing pretty well. So yeah, like it doesn't surprise me that they found a little bit of form. They've got a load of really good players, and I think Poch is a decent manager. I don't think he's elite, but I think he's a good manager and obviously can set a team up. So yeah, I don't think he's going to be losing his job anytime soon. And like, they'll at least give him next season.
I was say, dare I say it, they look a little bit more better. Look a little bit more cohesive without Enzo Fernandez in the midfield.
Yeah,
dare I say?
I wonder whether it's just too many of the same kind of player. I think in a squad, like you need to find that balance. And if you're gonna have that Enzo kind of, I know he's like a deeper player, plays a little bit. But he seems to want a bit of a free role to kind of like roam about the pitch. And if he's part of a double pivot, with Casado, who's been really poor this year, like then it's just leaving massive gaps. Maybe they need a bit of a reshuffle of how they set up that midfield, but yeah, like they found a bit of consistency. I mean, they're stuck with him either way, so they better figure out how to use him because they spent 110 million on him. So
yeah, he's on like a 50-year contract as well. So,
he's there till he dies. Yeah, remember, you're here forever.
Yeah. That's the mantra in the Chelsea changing room. It's like,
don't forget you're here forever. Well, we'll move on from Chelsea a little bit. And move on to another. Speaking of a manager that's kind of improved and the fortunes are going up, a manager whose fortunes have diminished massively, and it seems to be the in thing to just be slagging him off all the time. So let's jump in on that, shall we? Ange Postecoglou, Kevin Vink, Vlam, you might see me in your chat, losing to this completely deflated Liverpool side in that fashion. Ange might be a fraud. To kind of like bounce off that, Sai Maggio says, does Ten Hag, Poch or Ange make it to the start of next season? Like I say, Poch, I think, will be there next season. Yeah. He's at least shown kind of the green shoots, and I think if he can just keep working with the same players for next season, he's going to have a better year.
Just don't sign anyone. Don't sign anyone. Sell a bunch of people and just leave it as it is.
Clear decks a little bit. Just get a solid squad that you can trust and work from there. Ange, he definitely makes the start of next season. But as much as everyone was overhyping him at the start of the season, I think, like after 10 games, you had people saying, "Is he the greatest manager of all time?" Like, maybe going over the top a little bit there, but like everyone's saying, "Oh, what a breath of fresh air!" Like he plays this incredible football. Since then, I think they're like solidly mid-table. They're in a dreadful run of form. They can't defend, and there's not a lot of mitigating circumstances for it. I know like Maddison was missing for a bit and he had a couple of injuries. Obviously Van der Ven was missing for a little bit, but they're back now and they're still really poor. Says a lot when Richarlison comes off the bench and he's your best player. Like he came off the bench and looked really dangerous actually, which he's got the capability of doing. He's not a terrible player, he's just a bell end. And the Ten Hag thing, we'll get onto it in a minute.
Yeah, I think with Ange, like it's one of them. Like say at the start of the season when like you had pundits being like Spurs are in a title race. Like if it's any other club, they're not saying that, but it's because Spurs. I am using this as a bit of an opportunity to have a dig at Spurs, but we'll have a genuine point to make. But like it's for some reason Spurs are included in this Big Six, which I've never really understood. I get because they qualified for Champions League for a few years on the spin. They challenged for 2 league titles, but like if you look at all the other makeup of the clubs in that six the Sky Sports Big Six, right? Chelsea, Arsenal, United, they've all won something. Spurs. So it's like, I don't know why. If anything, it was almost unfair on Ange in a way to sort of like lump him and go, they might win the league this year. It's like they're obviously not going to. Like they're
Spurs.
They're Spurs, but the squad's nowhere near good enough. Nowhere near on the level of all those other teams. Like maybe obviously discounting Chelsea and United this season, but let's say like even like Arsenal, Liverpool, and City, nowhere near the quality of those teams. So I think, like I say, people got carried away with the hype a little bit. I think he's still a good manager, and any talk of that like Spurs getting rid of him is just ridiculous because it's like. He's come in, it's his first season. He's dramatically overhauled the playing style of the squad. He's gone from Mourinho and Conte, who've played a very, like, almost polar opposites in the way Ange wants to set up. And it's a very, like, particular way of playing, and it's high risk, high rewards. And at the moment, they're getting punishment for the risks rather than getting the rewards more often than not. So it's like you got to give him at least a few transfer windows to, build that squad in the way that he wants to. Like they built a centre back in January, they barely plays. Like I imagine that's just to bed him in, to give him time to bed in. And there'll be players that he wants to get rid of in the summer. So like as much as I don't want to see Ange and Spurs do well, you surely got to give him a bit of a chance. You know what I mean? So
he definitely makes a start next season for me. Like, and the thing that blows my mind is the amount of. I mean, granted, this is TalkSport, so like. They will just get anyone saying anything controversial on.
Yeah.
But the amount of people I've seen saying, "Yeah, he's done. Go get someone else." It's like Jesus Christ! Like people say that West Ham fans are terrible for wanting a different manager. Like this guy's been playing the only entertaining football you've seen in 6 years, and it's too entertaining now.
Yeah. It's like we're definitely in a bit of an, like I say, it's not like a new thing, I don't think, but I've just noticed it more over the last couple of years. We're definitely more of an era now where I feel like it doesn't even necessarily come from like fans of that particular club, but just like like neutral fans now are very quick to be like, he's got to go, isn't he? And it's like, so we had it with like Eddie Howe and Newcastle this year, where it's like, where he did have a lot of mitigation in terms of the amount of injuries I had this year, and obviously first season in the Champions League. But you saw this noise from outside Newcastle questioning his future and being like, well, you know, is he really the person? They're probably going to sack him, and they should sack him. It's like, well, no, hang on. Like, just what do Newcastle fans think? What do Newcastle actually think about it? And Newcastle fans, I know they've had some complaints of Howe this year. They've turned it around, looking like they're going to finish in the top six. It's been a great season for them, if that's the case, given, you know, all the injuries and the Tonali stuff and whatnot. I just think like we are too quick to just quickly call for sackings of managers just because it's almost a talking point. Do you know what I mean? Rather than like having any actual substance to it.
I think it's just clickbait culture, right? Like,
yeah.
You're trying to get interactions on your whatever social media post. And I'll definitely be putting some kind of clickbait title on this video. So, but I think that is just the nature of the beast, and I think, and also I think because that's like come to the fore over the past few years, I think genuinely fans do flip flop wildly from like he's the greatest thing ever to he's dreadful, get a different manager in. And it goes with players as well, like greatest to the worst. You see it with Saka all the time. He's either the greatest player in the world or the worst player in the league. Like
there's no nuance anymore.
Yeah, there's no space for there's no space for nuances. No shades of grey. It's all just black or white, and it's tiring, man. it's exhausting.
Oh God, tell me about it. Like, we'll touch on it obviously in a bit, but yeah, that's what's ruined this season for me. Not the football, which is the constant Moyes discourse, which thankfully is now coming to an end. Well, but yeah, like you say, there's no in between. It's either he's great or he's the worst thing ever. And it's just like anyway, whatever.
Well, speaking of Moyes being out officially, it's all kind of come to a fore today. Julian Lopetegui is pretty much I don't think he's signed the contract yet, but he's pretty much been confirmed as the new West Ham boss. You've talked about it briefly, I think, last time. But what are your thoughts on that? I mean, Scott's asked it in the questions as well. Initial thoughts. I know you kind of a little bit not necessarily tentative, but maybe not. It wasn't your first choice last time.
No, I think when you saw the list of names we've been linked with, so I think over the past like couple of weeks, I think the main. I won't go for everyone because I'll be here for ages, but like the main three candidates that were sort of led to believe were Ruben Amorim, Lopetegui, and Paulo Fonseca. I think obviously when you get linked, you know, when David Ornstein's tweeting out that like West Ham are in talks of Ruben Amorim, and all of a sudden it's like, what the fuck? Like this, you know, you get your hopes up a little bit, which I think a lot of the fan base have, and I don't really blame them for that, even though it was always incredibly unlikely that we were ever going to land him, just because he's, despite the fact no one, you know, no top clubs going for him, one of the most sought after managers in Europe. Like, or at least one of the more like trendier names, let's say. Because like say sought after, it means people are after him. He's
summer's, you know, football hipster choice, isn't he?
Yeah, essentially. And like there is that, you know, there's a lot to be excited about there. But whereas I think Lopetegui, I think is seen as more of a. I think the general consensus from West Ham fans seems to be is a bit more of a sideward step than Moyes, which I partly understand, partly don't, which we'll get into. But yeah, look, not my first choice, but I think I'm at a point now, not where I'm like anyone but Moyes. Like obviously, if we'd appointed Steve Bruce, I'd be fuming. But like, I do think we are at a point now where like the team just needs fresh ideas, like, and we need just a new voice on the pit, like in the change room and on the pitch now, where we've had David Moyes for nearly like pretty much 4 years now. And like I've said many times, it's just run its course. And look, the guy comes in with a very impressive CV. Like I know people are going to look at the Wall stint with a lot of misconceptions and a lot of just stuff that isn't true. Like the amount of people, I was in a, for some reason I joined a Twitter space for the first time the other day with a bunch of West Ham fans.
I can imagine that was good.
Oh well, I was very polite and I wasn't rude or anything. I was very, you know, respectful of the opinions that were being shared. But I did want to scream. That
doesn't sound like Twitter at all.
No, I know. But like, there was people in there saying to me like, "Oh well, you know, he got sacked by Wolves. Why is he good enough for us?" And it's like we didn't get sacked. Like that's just not what happened. And like, he finished 16th with Sevilla. It's like, yeah, after they sold off all their best players and couldn't buy anyone because they had no money.
Won
like,
the Europa League trophy and like
and
finished fourth.
Yeah, 3 years in a row, and like had like I think they had one season they only lost like 4 games or something. So it's like you can frame it whichever way you want. This idea that he's like the Spanish Moyes that I've seen like banded about is just like baseless. Like I don't see how you can really. All you need to do is a bit of research. You can see that he's very clearly a different type of manager. Now, is it the football that I want to see? It seems very possession based and very like controlling the game and like a bit of high pressing there and like controlling the game in possession, and these teams don't score a load of goals, which, if your biggest complaint about Moyes' style of football, then yeah, that's not going to appeal to you. I get that. But at the same token, it does, it looks like he can organise the defence a little bit better. And, it looks like he likes creative players, technical players. From what I've seen, he doesn't have an issue of bringing in youth players through. And he also, he's used to working with a director of football sort of setup and structure, which clearly, like, our technical director or director for wherever his title is hasn't resigned off the back of this. So you imagine that he's happy to work with Lopetegui in terms of getting players in and work within that structure. So I think Monchi, the guy who's at Villa, was his director of football at Sevilla.
Yeah.
So like he's worked in that environment before. And if he's taking the job, you'd imagine again there's an agreement in place that is going to be how it is. Unlike where it was with Moyes, where Moyes would just get recommended players and go, no. Premier League experience? No. Is he Harry Maguire? No.
Yeah.
Like, so...
Is he 31 and 6'3"? I don't want him.
Exactly. Yeah. So, like, I think people can sit on Twitter making cases for and against and why it's a good appointment, why it's a bad appointment, whatever. I'm at a point now after a whole season of just like back and forth about the manager's future. I'm actually kind of just looking forward to getting into the summer now and seeing what we do in terms of bringing players in and, watching preseason games and seeing how the team's taking shape and just seeing how it goes. Like, it might be a disaster. It could end up being quite good. So, like, if people say it's a sideward step, then what does that mean? We'll be in the top half competing for the European spaces. Cool. Like, what more can we realistically achieve? Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I mean, even if it is a sideward step, it might be a sideward step with the higher ceiling. Like, because let's be honest, like David Moyes isn't getting any better than he's done. He is smacked up against that ceiling because that is the limitation of his ability. He did it with Everton. It's not worked for other clubs. It's worked. I think there's this misconception of, if you're saying you want a different manager to David Moyes, you're not appreciative of or understanding of what he has done, and it is really good. But there comes this point where everyone needs to take this next step. Like I said it earlier on Discord, like it reminds me in a different way, but it reminds me of Brighton when they brought in Potter, and everyone was like up in arms, like, why are you changing managers now? It's like, well, because this is the next step. Like, we need to take this next step to improve to get to where we want to go. And Lopetegui, like I say, he's won European trophies. He did really well in La Liga with a squad that was nowhere near as good as the other teams that were around him, or at least nowhere near as good as the top three. And he was up there competing with them. He's a very good manager. He's not He's not going to come in and revolutionize football. But if he's going to improve the style of football that's seen at West Ham and facilitate the continual upward trajectory, then he's going to do a great job. Like, he's a very experienced, very good football manager, and like you can't always go for Twitter's favorite tactico, no. or the hipster's choice for this season. Otherwise, you end up just changing your manager every 2 years.
This is the thing. I said to someone on that Twitter space, like there was like the point that makes to me is like, oh well, Amorim is like shows ambition and like it's a long term thing, and I was like, if Amorim comes in and does as well as you think he's going to do, he ain't going to be there for 5 years. It'll be gone in 2 because a bigger club will want him. Like that's just how it works. Like look at De Zerbi, had 6 months or however long it was at Brighton when Potter left. Like let's say 8 months of the season, did really well, and all season he's been linked with bigger clubs. Like, I know it looks like he's going to stay, but it's like, that's just the way it goes. And
that's because they're shit.
Again, there's, yeah, I did see that backtrack of like, no, I really want to stay. Can't wait for next day. It's going to be great. Fuck's sake. But that's been, there's no guarantee. I made this point. There's no guarantee that Amorim will have come in and catapult us into the top 4 that people seem to think he would have done. If anything, he plays like a back, like really expansive, like back 3 system, which we have not got the players for. Like, the idea that he would have come in and implement this style perfectly within the first year, I don't think it would have happened. In time, it could have done, But knowing what the patience of football fans are like, would he have even been afforded that time from the West Ham fan base? I'm not sure. Like,
also bear in mind, like with Lopetegui, it's a guy who's been successful in other leagues, but also done a good job at Wolves. Like he left because he got all the players sold out from under him, and when he got told that wasn't going to happen, and he walked away from it, which is fair enough. Yeah, he's had a couple of rough spells here and there, but who hasn't? But the guy's got Premier League experience as well, so he's going to know what it takes to do well in a Premier League. And yeah, like with Amorim, it's a very young manager who's had a couple of very good seasons at a club where they've got one of the best squads in the league. Time will tell with those kind of managers whether that does translate elsewhere and whether it does move elsewhere, because the amount of times that we've seen those managers get pushed way too early and go to a club and it all kind of fall apart. You see it all the time. So it could have been a case of you drag this guy out before he's ready. For every Jose Mourinho that's come in and taken the league by storm, there's 5-10 managers where it's not worked and they've been gone in a few months.
Absolutely, and like it's. Yeah, like I said, I can't. Like a lot of people saying, "Oh, it's going to be Pellegrini. This is going to be like a Pellegrini Mark II and all this sort of stuff." And again, it's just completely different scenarios. Pellegrini was managing China when we got him. Like he was done, And it's. I said this to someone on Twitter earlier. People would have turned their noses up if we'd have gone and appointed Emery, for example, from Villarreal. People would have turned their noses up because they'd have been like, "Well, he failed at Arsenal. What's he doing here?" Like,
yeah.
And look how good he's been for Villa. Again, I'm not comparing them to as managers. I'm not saying he's going to come in and have the exact same impact as Emery has at Villa, but I don't know. I think a lot of people are just upset because they didn't get the manager that we were initially linked with, an exciting name. And because he's not an exciting name, I get it. And they've had Wolves fans slagging him off because they don't like the way he left the club. But I don't know. I've spoken to some Wolves fans who are like, "Oh no, the football was terrible." But I've gone back and looked for their tweets. They weren't complaining about it at the time. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like it's funny how that the way he left the club is all of a sudden
football fans
changed.
on Twitter, surely not.
I know, weird, right? Weird, right? So I was like, I almost don't want to pay attention to like what Wolves fans have to say. Like, I get it. Like, you've seen more of Lopetegui managing than I have, so like, yeah, I'm sure it's worth something. But if your opinion's tainted by the way he left the football club, it's kind of like, well, how seriously can I take it? Do you know what I mean? But yeah, so I think it's in a way it's a bit scary, but it's exciting. Like to say, new manager, potential new hopefully bunch of new players coming in the summer, and we'll see where it goes. And also no European football for us next season. So he can just focus on the Premier League and the cups and see how he gets on. And hopefully, like I say, if it is a sideward step, we keep going in the same direction we have been under Moyes for the majority of his time here. Obviously, not the last few months. Not counting the last 3 months. That's been dreadful.
Well,
yeah, but it's. I will say, like to your point, I've said this on here so many times. I feel like I had to keep beating the point home because people still don't get it. Like you said, that you can want the manager to go, but you can also appreciate the good job he's done. Like we're having, like I said, we haven't chatted about it in your Discord earlier. Like from where we were when he came in to where we are now, like he's obviously done a brilliant job, and he's given me something that I never ever thought I would see, which is West Ham lifting a trophy, let alone a European trophy. Like, and people can say what they want about that competition. Like, you trust me, Villa fans will be gutted if they don't make it through the second leg against Olympiacos. They will. Like, obviously, qualifying Champions League will make up for it, but like, I don't know. Like, given the season they've had and they're going to finish fourth, part of me looks at it and goes, I'd still rather have that night in Prague, though. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what it's about, right? Is winning trophies and celebrating and stuff, rather than finishing top 4, top 5. It's like that's not a trophy. As much as Arsenal will try and convince you that it is. Like you kind of touched on it there. Like the last few months, the last few games have just been dire for both of us. How do you feel about the? How do I kind of phrase this? Like the last taste of Moyes as he walks out the door, like because it's not been good, has it? And I think it'd be I think it'd be kind to say the players are on the beach already. Because I don't think it is. It looks like the setup badly. He doesn't really look like he's got much motivation to do anything anymore, and that's as soon as players start seeing that from a manager, then why are they going to try?
Yeah, I think it's very telling that like you only really saw us try in the Europa League, like post January. Like we went out the FA Cup and it all kind of snowballed from there. And then since then, you only really seen a bit of effort from us was against, like I said, that second leg against Leverkusen, where like it was out of desperation more than anything. It's been a really sad end to his reign. I think that's sort of what I get from it. It's been frustrating. I've made my thoughts clear on it, so many times on here. How frustrated I've been with it, and just some of the stuff like he comes out with after games now, where it's like we get battered 5-0 by Chelsea, we're 3-0 down after like 20 minutes or whatever. Again, for like the second away game in a row, this has happened. And he gets asked about it, like why we conceded so many goals this year. And the press comes afterwards, and he just goes, Declan Rice. And I'm not even like paraphrasing because like that's generally what he said. His response was just Declan Rice. We had one of the best midfielders in the country, and like he protected the defense and whatnot, and now he's gone. Which is like for the last couple of years, Rice was there, man. You changed his position, so he was more of a box to box anyway. Like so he wasn't even the defensive midfielder. Like
not only that, but it's like, so you're saying that these players that you've signed are that bad?
Yeah, that's the thing as well.
You can't set up a defense without one of the best midfielders in the league.
Yeah, it's like you've just thrown Edson Alvarez completely under the bus, who he wasn't great on the weekends, but no one was. But also he's had a really good debut season in England. Like he's been great. Like speaks to most West Ham fans, they love Edson Alvarez. He's brilliant. Just thrown him under the bus. Like I can't imagine how he felt hearing that. Obviously had nothing to do with playing when your captain hasn't got any ligaments in his legs, so can't run, and you've got a 35-year-old Angelo Bonner next to him because like your other two centre backs are injured, and you refuse to play youth players. Like you've got an under 21 FA Cup winning defender like on your bench. End of the season, nothing to play for. You won't just give him a go. Because what's the worst going to happen? We'll concede 5 away to Chelsea. Like, do you know? It's just stuff like that. He takes no responsibility. He's just taken no responsibility for anything that's gone wrong this season. It will just blame the players. Like, what he said as well? He was talking to the club website. It was like, oh yeah, but we had too many attackers on the pitch, not enough defenders. And it's just like that. Just sums it up. It's like, and he said the attackers he's talking about: Antonio, Bowen, Kudus, Paqueta. It's 4 attackers. Yeah. Like out of 11 players. And you think we should have more defenders?
We're
like,
too gung ho.
Yeah, like
I put someone who could pick a pass and someone who could score a goal. So
yeah, it's like you said. He's crammed up against his ceiling, and he can't manage a big squad. Doesn't want to manage a big squad. Doesn't want to move with the times in terms of working with a more modern transfer approach in terms of like having someone else in charge of recruitment. Like he has to do it all himself. Like. It's just like I say, it's just a shame that it's ended this way, really, because I think a lot of it is his own making, and that's the sort of biggest regret. It's like he actually nearly had it. Like I think when we had that really good run in December, when it's January, it's like he nearly had his team perfectly set up to how he can play his football and we can still be really good. And then we sold off 2 players, didn't bother replacing them, and he just let it slip through his fingers. But it's a shame. But I think history will be really kind to David Moyes. Like in like 3 years' time, obviously he'll be looked back and remembered very fondly for what he did. And no one will remember really his last season, I don't think. But it's in terms of whether or not it's like people will say, is it the right decision? It's absolutely the right decision to let him go now. Like it's where else can you go with him?
And,
you know,
and it's not like he's. I saw a statement or a tweet or something like, no, it was the actual West Ham tweet. It was like. We've decided to separate on mutual grounds. It's like, isn't his contract up? It's like, isn't that just him not signing a new contract? That's not a mutual termination, is it? Like,
yeah, it's very I think that's very much I think that's letting him control the narrative because he'll get asked about it now and he'll go, "Oh, I've made the decision to walk away."
Yeah,
and to be fair, he dropped hints earlier in the season that he was thinking about not, but when he came out and was like, "Oh, there's a contract off on the table, and I'm the one who decides." I don't think that was ever true. I don't think because I think I said to you before, if he's got a contract off from West Ham, why as if you're not telling me he's not signing that? Because unless it's a club like a Leicester in 6 months' time, what other Premier League job is he realistically getting? Or like if Dyche ever leaves Everton, he might go back there. But
I feel with Moyes, like I was. The way that he wants to be in control of everything, the way that he wants to play, it feels like he's one of those managers he kind of started 10 years too late, and he's gone into this new era of management and new, like the modern era of football, and he's still just like he's still chained to the 90s. There's a like the noughties, like there's a few managers like that. I think Mourinho's caught with that, like even though he is, I think he's a more like charismatic and like maybe a little bit more willing to like move with the times than a Moyes, but I still think he's like very much like that. He's very like authoritarian noughties manager, like that it just doesn't kind of, he's just been left a little bit behind the times. So I don't even know if there would be a Premier League club that would come in for him when there's managers, there's younger managers who are kind of a bit more au fait with modern football, who can do a similar kind of, hard to break down kind of football, who would be a much more appealing option for a lot of teams, especially with Rob Edwards if Luton go down. Like, for someone that can set up a team to be hard, like really well structured, but also have a bit of attacking impetus and work, like get the most out of what he's got, which is what David Moyes has always done. But I think he'll do it to a better degree, in a more modern way, and not be some naughty's dinosaur, basically.
Basically, yeah. And it's like I say, it's just incredibly telling. I'll always remember, again, it's on Talksport, and they were debating it, and they were like, oh, they'd be mad to get rid of him, and never going to get one who's better. And then they asked the question like, oh, well, if he does go, where could you see him going to? And they couldn't name a club. I think someone went, oh, what about Ipswich if McKenna goes? I went, no, they wouldn't have him. It's like, well, like you just admitted a championship team wouldn't have him.
Yeah,
it's like you just conceded your own point. Like, but yeah, like we said, how dare West Ham fans ask for a slight improvement on what it currently is? You know what I mean? How dare we criticise great David Moyes?
With 12th every year.
Yeah, should be happy conceding 70 goals a season. Like,
well, speaking of conceding 70 goals a season, I felt like I conceded 70 goals tonight watching Man United get pumped by Palace. Like, granted, a Palace that has been really impressive since Oliver Glasner's come in. A load of players are coming back from injury at the right time. They're clicking. They've been playing really well, and they are playing a United squad who has, like I said earlier, missing 8 defenders. We're missing our 2 best players. I mean, you could argue with Rashford, but like historically, he's been one of our better players, been one of our more effective players. And Bruno missed his first game through injury in the history of his United career today, and it just, man, I think you said before, like you didn't watch it. It might be worth it just for the comedy.
I've seen the goals, but I haven't seen the full game. But I've seen the goals.
I'm at the point now. It's like he can't survive any longer. Like he has to go. Like Ten Hag. I'm still of the thing of like, but like to what end? Like if it's a case of okay, the same thing's going to happen. We're going to end up with the same squad in the club next year. We'll get a new manager bounce, and in 18 months, like 2 years, we'll get the same thing because the same players will have thrown another manager under the bus. If it's a new manager comes in and there is significant changes in the dressing room, then fair enough. Yeah. But by that end, that like he was the right guy 18 months ago. Like if you're gonna make that such a drastic change in the dressing room, maybe the guy that was right 18 months ago can get something out of him. The only thing with that is like, because how many managers out there can come in and do a great job? Who knows? Like you say, it's always a coin toss. He did a really good job last year. He's had no players fit basically the entire season, and some players just look like they've given up. Casemiro looks like he's playing Soccer Aid. Like he is basically the living proof that Real Madrid know when to sell a player. Because last year he was good for 6 months, tailed off a little, like he had a rough start and a rough end to the season. This year he has just been awful. Like not even he's been not quite at the standard. He's been a bad player all year.
Was it the 4th goal? He just gets bullied off the ball, like down near the corner flag or whatever, and then like
he dribbles the ball back to his own goal line, and then gets muscled off the ball by a winger.
Yeah,
like, just oof it. Like if you're getting run into your own goal line, like just get rid of it anywhere.
Yeah,
he just kind of stands there, falls over, and then Elise kicks it down the middle of the goal and Onana lets it in. Like, it was. It wasn't even depressing. It was like. It's like I expected it, and it was somehow I expected nothing, and I was still somehow disappointed.
Yeah, no, I get that. Okay, that was me with the Palace and Chelsea games recently. Where it's like my expectations were low, but Jesus Christ,
yeah. Like I say, we're coming into it. We're missing an entire squad. Like we've got our team is hoping that Kobe Mainu and Alejandro Garnacho is going to pull us out of the shit. Two kids who should be starting 15, 20 games a year at this point in their career.
Yeah. And
they're playing every game. Like, they are, like, pivotal members of the squad. If they're missing, we're screwed, basically. I think Onana probably topped the passes attempted to Højlund chart again, because he just didn't get the ball at all. And like I said, we're playing Johnny Evans, who got rushed back from injury at 36 years old, who was a last minute sign in because he was better than anything we had in preseason, and Casemiro, who can't play football at the minute in the squad. It's when you look at the amount of money this club has spent on transfers in the last 4 or 5 years,
it's a damning indictment, isn't it?
It's criminal. It's like bordering on, like, is this money laundering? Like,
it's a dereliction. It's just a dereliction of duty, isn't it? It's just like,
and it's nothing against
how badly that squad can be assembled.
It's nothing personally against any of the players, but it's like there's obviously been no joined up thinking at any point. There's no coherency in terms of like getting the similar kinds of players, similar ages, similar statures of players. Nothing to try and fit into any particular system. It's just like they're available. Let's overpay for them. And we're seeing at this like the end of the season, we're gonna losing on a free. We're gonna like Varane's going, Martial's going, like players who, massive earners. Because the reason they're going on a free is because we can't move them on. Like we're paying way too much money. No one's gonna pick them up, which is my worry with a lot of these players that need to leave. Like who takes them? Like not why would they leave because they're not going to get the same wage. It's like, who's going to even start to discuss a wage with them because of the amount of money they're getting overpaid? It's just, it's tragic. Like, just watching that team try and play football, it is tragic. And I said, like, I wouldn't be against him staying. And I kind of had this on Twitter. It's like, how can you not want him to go right now? So, well, do you think that he wants to be playing Casemiro at centre-back? And then do you think he's sending him out there saying, play like you're at Soccer Aid? Like, because it was literally just, he can't run anymore. So the only thing he does to try and make up ground is slide tackle. So he just charges in and slide tackle. There was a moment, I think it was Ebreze picked the ball up, about 15 yards outside his own penalty area. Stood on the ball and just watched Casemiro like career past him in the slide tackle, and he just like watched him and then walked up the pitch. I'm like, what in the pub league football did I just see? It was.
I think in terms
alone
of like,
was just summed it up.
Yeah, sums it up. Yeah, I think in terms of like, should he go or not? I think all the mitigations are fair, like you said. I think, and the people can roll their eyes at it, but like the stats are there and the numbers are there in terms of how many injuries United have had this season, and like how many different players at different times and stuff, and how many they've been unavailable for. I just think for me, for me watching United, there's no like, I don't look at it in the sense of like, well, if you had the players you want, there's something there. Do you know what I mean? I look at it, it's like there's. Even from a basic tactical standpoint, there doesn't really seem to be anything. Like, it's been highlighted many times this season, the massive gaps in between midfield and defence. And I think, like you said, it's like a mishmash of different play styles. And that might be down to the poor recruitment in the summer, and sort of it ends up with a bunch of different players who suit different systems. But it just feels like he's almost sort of so tainted from this season that maybe, like I say, just clearing house and getting a new voice in the dressing room in the summer, just hitting a full-on reset, it might be the best way to go, even if it is someone like a Thomas Tuchel or like a Hansi Flick, who I think is available on the market right now. Yeah. Just like start every department, start from scratch.
That would be like the thing I'd be happy to say. If it was a Thomas Tuchel, not so much, but like Hansi Flick, Yeah, I know he stunk the place out with Germany, but they've been stinking the place out for a longer time than he's been there. Other than they actually look quite good at the minute. But yeah, at Bayern, I don't know it's Bayern in Germany, but he had like an 80% win record. He won back-to-back Bundesligas. He won the Champions League. Like, the guy's a good coach. Like, the guy's a good manager. So if it was a case of like, okay, we're gonna bring like we just need to cut the cord. There needs to be a line under everything. Like, everyone's for sale. Manager's gone. Like, line in the sand time.
Yeah.
Then I'd be up for it. And I think you're right. Like, it might just be a case of now things are so bad, and there is mitigating circumstances, and it's not his fault, but it is his responsibility as the manager to okay, everyone's injured. Maybe play a youth defender rather than a midfielder who's shown that he can't defend. Like, he's not got the positional awareness anymore or the legs to make up for it. Maybe don't play him there. Maybe if you've got so many players out and you're missing so many defenders and you have to like plug holes, maybe don't let all your midfielders run up the pitch. Maybe say you two are basically tied by a rope to your centre backs, and if you go up the pitch, you're coming off. And that's obviously just not happening. And and his reasoning for that in that interview with Gary Neville was like, well, I don't want to start learning to play a different way, and then players come back and we learn a different way, and players come back and we learn a different way. It's like, yeah, okay, I understand that, but you can't. It's borderline whether you can get away with that with the best players available, and all those players that you want to be a key part of that have been missing all year. Like, there's been a lot of signings, but the only signing that he's made that's been consistently available has been Anthony, and has been widely, kind of rightfully, been described as terrible because he's been terrible. But when you think Lisandro Martinez, really important, been out all season. Like Mason Mount, he wanted to get him in and make him a part of the midfield. He's been out all season. Like these players that are coming in that he's made the sign of. Granted, Amrabat, don't know why he seemed like he wanted to sign him because he's just not played him. And actually, Amrabat came off the bench today and looked like the only player who was trying. So I don't know why he's not been playing him. He must have something on him. He probably is the one in the players chat calling him Baldy.
should be pot kettle.
Well, no, there was a tweet going around that like Anthony was in line to get suspended till the end of the season because he'd been calling Ten Hag Baldy in the players group chat. It turned out it's not real. But like, right, it's like, okay. I was gutted because it means he's going to keep playing him.
And the thing is, it would be so on brand for United. Do you know what I mean? It's believable. It's so ridiculous.
Well, that's the thing. Is like the one player who basically him sticking by him and playing him all the time going to lose him his job, and he's in the group chat slagging him off. Like, yep, sounds pretty United to me.
Imagine Tuchel covered him being like, "Did you call him Daddy, then?" Give him the Lukaku treatment.
Oh man!
Oh, dear.
But either way, at this point, like I feel like after watching that and just the complete lack of anything in the last few games, and the complete lack of any motivation from the players that are playing. You'd think like players who are usually squad players getting game time, they'd be trying to show that they're worth it, and they're just not. And these kids that are having to play every game look knackered. Like, again, like I think Kobe Mainu had an alright game today, but he just looks absolutely just drained. And he's coming out of youth football, 6-month injury, straight into the first team. He's like, yep, first name on the team sheet. You're basically pivotal to how we're going to perform at Man United. It's a joke.
It's insane.
Yeah,
it's wonder as well, like you said, like the playing players that position, not like, oh, why not stick another youth player in there? If anything, like, because I saw the injuries and they haven't played quite a few people out of position, but even if you have to get a few of the youth players in there, at least there'll be some coherency, there'll be, because they've obviously been used to playing each other, so there'll already be those pre-existing relationships on the pitch, which will already give you a better chance. I always feel like, rather than shoehorning in an experienced player in a position he doesn't really know or is used to, you probably are better off just chucking another couple of youth players in, where at least there'll be a little bit of a connection, a little bit of relationships, and how they know how they play, sort of thing. And
also, like you said earlier, like, what's the worst that could happen? We lose 4-0 at Palace. Like,
yeah, exactly.
What's the worst that could happen? But playing a load of kids, and I'd understand the argument of like, well, it's a disaster at the minute. We don't want to introduce kids into that environment. It's like, yeah, okay, fair enough. Like if that would be the argument, then fair enough. But just the fact that we are missing so many players and so many first team players, like there's something deeper going on there. Whether it's training methods, whether it's recovery methods, whether it's whatever. Like I've seen people blaming Ten Hag for it. It's like, well, maybe it is like a measure of the training, but at the same time, it's like I saw someone saying you should rotate more. It's like rotate with who? Everyone's injured.
Yeah,
it's like you get to that point where everyone's you lose 5 or 6 first team players and you can't rotate because like most teams have got like 18 first team players and then some fringe players and youth players who you'll drip in here and there. Once you lose that kind of buffer, you've got 11 starters.
Yeah,
and then it is like you're relying on Garnacho, you're relying on Mainu, who, like I said, should be playing 20 games a season, like starting 20 games a season. Not how many Garnacho played this season? 45 games or something. Like it's insane.
Like that, yeah.
It's way too much, and you're just gonna burn a kid out playing him that much.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the arguments are there about this. It's that been happening to Saka. Like obviously, I know Saka's not. He's having a good season, but he's not fair. I think it's fair to say recently his form's sort of been tailed off a fair bit, and a lot of people saying like claims like, well, yeah, but he's been playing for Arsenal since he was 17, like non-stop pretty much. Like he's the only player who never gets a rest in that Arsenal squad, and you're arguably starting to see the effects of that now in terms of his form.
You see the it's a worrying trend, like, and you see it a lot in history. And granted, like sports medicine and kind of and training methods have come on a lot in the last 10, 15, 20 years. But when you see the early drop off of players who played all the time as teenagers, I'm thinking like Wayne Rooney, Theo Walcott, Jack Wilshere, like these players who were brought into it. And it's like, okay, you're too good for us to leave out. You're a key member of the squad now. They're done by 27, 28. Like they're on the immediate downslope. Like when was the last time? I think Theo Walcott retired at 32, didn't he? Like he wasn't getting a game in a championship. In the championship side, like like Jack Wilshere's been the Arsenal youth coach for the last 3 years, and he's 34 or something. Like it's ridiculous. Rooney looked like he was 40 at the age of 27. Like and granted, some of that with Rooney's obviously like he didn't look after himself the best, but still like when you look at the fall off of players who played that much that early, Neymar's
Michael Owen as well.
Michael Owen, like Neymar was playing 40 games a year from the age of 17. Like he's only 31, but he's not played more than 20 games a season for the past 4 years. Like with those kind of players, you do worry about it, and it's the exact same thing with Garnacho and Mainu right now. I hope it's a case of we bring in players so they can get a game off. Like they play start 20 games a season and come off the bench for the rest, and like get bled in. The Phil Foden method, like get kind of slowly bled into the team until you're like 22, 23, and it's like, okay, now you're ready. You're ready to have that kind of pressure on you to be playing 40, 45 games a season because you've grown up.
Foden's never really had I know he's had the odd injury. He seems to have like one injury or a season, but he's never like consistently injured. Like it's like you say, there's always been points with Foden where it's like, oh, he should be playing way more. But like Pep, he's very good at just sort of being like, no, like we're just managing him. We're just looking after him. And like I say, now he's in a position where now he is justified with the first name on the team sheet, and his body can probably handle it a lot more.
I mean, it helps when you've got Kevin De Bruyne and Gundogan and Bernardo Silva, and it's not like, okay, we've either got this 18-year-old wonder kid or this 32-year-old Brazilian defensive midfielder who can't move anymore, who tries to make up for his pace for slide tackling. It's I mean, they've built a good team there. There's not a lot of teams who can touch them in terms of squad building, but hopefully, at least Man United will start to get that way. Hopefully, fingers crossed. There's a lot of hope rather than expectation.
Yeah, and look, if there's no Europe next year, it generally might be a blessing. Like I know it's something that's thrown around a lot and stuff, but like I know it hasn't really worked in Chelsea's favour this year. But like I say, there's so much work needs to be done to that United squad. I do just think not being in Europe it gives you a chance to get rid of a lot of deadwood, and like I say, just hit the reset button, start again. And
as well, like not being in Europe might make it a bit easier to get rid of some players. Like if it is a case of, all right, I don't want to. If we're not playing in Europe, I don't want to stick around here. Like I'll take a bit of a pay cut to go and play in the Champions League. I'll play at least at a Europa League level. You know, there just needs to be a sea change at that club, and I've talked about it to the nth degree on this pod, plenty. But and even though I was saying earlier, like it's a bit of a disaster if you try and change 10 players in a window, but honestly, United need it.
Yeah,
because there is players who just shouldn't be there anymore.
Yeah. I used that example a few weeks ago. Look at Arsenal, like, and they're reaping the rewards for it now. Like they just hit a hard reset, shipped a load of players out, and just started again. And you know, if United have got what Arsenal had in terms of like a couple of kids coming through now who they can sort of build around, like, you know, Garnacho, Mainu. I know Højlund doesn't come through the United Academy, but he's young enough you can build around him. They've got a really exciting winger out on loan in Dortmund at the moment. They could probably.
Jesse Lingard needs a club. He's a young and exciting player coming through. I think
so. But yeah, no, I do think it. That's an interesting one, actually. If Ten Hag goes, do you think there's a way back for? I'm not gonna go as overboard. As good as I thought he was the other night, I'm not gonna go as overboard about Sancho based off one performance I've seen him have since leaving United. If Ten Hag was to go, do you think there's a way back for Sancho?
I think there'd be a way back. It's whether the club should want him to stick around.
Yeah.
After everything that's gone on, like, it's obvious that different managers will get different things out of different players. But do you want that? What's been shown as to be not a great mentality around a dressing room that needs a shake-up because the mentality's shit. It's been a disaster of a transfer. Like we were hunting him for 3 years. Finally got him over the line. He was injured. Then he was bad. He didn't want to play, and then he's fallen out. And let's not pretend like when he was at United and playing, he was great. Like he'd have an all right, like a pretty good game now and again. And it'd be that thing of like he'd have a good game. You go, maybe now is when he kicks on, and then it's nothing for another month. And then he'd have a game where he turns it on a bit. It's like he's got all the ability, Sancho. And from what I've seen, like, in terms of, like, interviews and like, people who know him, like, he seemed like a nice bloke. I've heard someone say, maybe he's just too much of a normal bloke. Maybe he's just a guy who is a bit lazy and he doesn't really want to get up early for training and he doesn't want to he doesn't want to go and do the extra mile. He's just really talented. He's got that, not quite at the same level, but that kind of Eden Hazard thing about him for me. Whereas, like, when he's great, when he's good and he's in the right environment and everything works for him, he looks like a world beater. In other departments, he just kind of doesn't really care. He's just really good at football.
Yeah.
But he'd rather toss it off and go and play video games till 4 a.m. Like, I can relate.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I can't knock him for that, I suppose.
Yeah. Maybe he just doesn't have that mentality that you need to be an elite sports person. That almost that psychotic level of like, I'm gonna do this until I'm the best in the world. Maybe he's just really talented and doesn't really get the most out of it.
It'll be very interesting to see what happens if Dortmund end up winning the Champions League.
Yeah.
I don't think they will, but yeah.
If they win it and he's a core part of it, 40 million, we can have him back.
Yeah, bargain, I think.
Yeah, absolute bargain.
Well, we touched on Spurs earlier, so I don't really think there's. Obviously, they lost in quite devastating fashion to Liverpool at the weekend, who are back. That doesn't really mean anything, but they're back.
They tried really hard to throw it away, though, Liverpool.
Yeah, they really did. At least they made it interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think like we said earlier, not really much to worry about. I think in terms of the future for Ange, I think see how he gets on next season and then go from there. I think.
I think he's shown enough. He needs to. I don't know whether it's the same behind closed doors as it is to the media, but like I assume it's not. But I think like stubbornness can be a good thing or a bad thing in football, and I think if he's stubbornly like, if the thing about the set pieces is real, it's like I don't really care about set pieces, then if that carries on behind the door, like closed doors and to the board should be concerned, because set pieces are a massive part of football, and like it or not, like I kind of agree with the sentiment of like if I'm successful, it's not going to be because of set pieces. Like
Yeah.
I think like if you're just going to go off from that, take the soundbite of like he doesn't care about set pieces, but maybe it's just like I don't want to rely on them like a Brentford or a Stoke in the past. Like that's not going to be the key. But at the same time, to come out with that and then concede 4 goals in the next 2 games directly from set pieces, it's not a good look.
I think it's what you said. I think he probably does. He probably is aware of it and wants to fix it. But I think it's like you said. He's probably just like he doesn't want to sort of live and die off of how good they are at set pieces, sort of thing. Which I get. Like you don't want to be trying to be a manager who's just known for being good at set pieces because then you're David Moyes. So I can understand that. Well, Mikel Arteta, I guess they've been really good at set pieces this season.
Well, that's the thing is like you can still be a very effective possession, attacking, creative team, and just being devastating from set pieces will just add another string to your bow. Like I dare say, if they weren't as good from set pieces as they have been. And Declan Rice coming in has been a massive part of that. Who knew he was the greatest corner taker in history? I
know.
Just second to David Beckham. Who knew? Like they wouldn't be having as much of a fist in this title fight as they have been because there's been games where it's been a last minute corner that's been a winner for him. So yeah, it's a string to the bow and it's a massive part of football. So I don't think he doesn't actually care about them, or at least I hope not for Spurs fans' blood pressure. Yeah,
because like I say, that's definitely gonna be something they're going to other teams which are going to target even more next season. So if he hasn't sort of figured it out by then yeah, it's going to be a problem. In terms of the rest of the Premier League, I mean, City won't go away, so it's looking more inevitable that they're going to win another league title because they just keep blowing past teams with ease. And Arsenal doing their best.
Yeah, I remember when Haaland was a League Two player.
yeah, that's come back a bit keen in the arse, isn't it?
Did you see the glare?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. Was he called him a sport brat, didn't he? And it was just like, it's like, come on, like, just admit you got it wrong. Just admit you got. And again, I think it's like you said, like. Within that soundbite, he's probably making a fairly okay assessment in the sense of like his overall play isn't as good as his goal scoring ability is. But like to say, look, he's at times looks like a League Two player. It's like, you've just
one of the funny things. I can't remember which goal it was, but one of them was like he controlled it. I say controlled it. It bounced off his knee. It looked like he fell over, and I thought, "There's the League Two player." And then he absolutely just hammered it in the top. I was like, "Oh, okay." Yeah. So proper glass cannon build. It's like that's all he's done is just all pace, all shot power, nothing else.
Yeah, no, it's annoying. I really wanted someone. Like I said, obviously, I don't really have any deep-seated hatred for Arsenal. I don't care if they win the league. I don't care if Liverpool win the league. I just wanted someone different to win the league this year. And the fact it's going to be City again for a 4th year in a row is just like
it's boring. But it doesn't really count because of the cheaters. So
basically, yeah. And I do actually think Arsenal will be right up there again next year. I must admit, second half of this season, Arsenal have been a lot more impressive than they were the first half of this season. And I've said on this podcast, I think Declan Rice has improved Arsenal more than they've improved him. I think it's maybe starting to level out a little bit more now because he is, with every game, he's looking more and more just looks. Yeah,
he's really.
I think he's. I said this like last year. So like obviously whilst he was still at West Ham before he moved to Arsenal. I said, other than Jude Bellingham, he's England's best midfielder. Like him and Bellingham are England's 2 best central midfielders by some distance.
Yeah, but they're our only central midfielders.
No, but you know what I mean. Like in terms of like, there's talent within our central midfield pool, like to varying degrees. But like Rice gets into every team in the world, basically. Like every top team in the world, Rice walks into that team. And it's a little bit annoying that he had to move to Arsenal for other people to realise it, but that's just me being a bit of West Ham fan about it.
Yeah,
I've been that drum for years.
He's a lot more clutch than I thought he'd be.
Yeah,
like, he seems to be like he puts the team on his back a lot. I obviously like knew that he was like a really talented footballer and a good player, and like he's got a lot of strings to his bow. But like the amount of times where he's come up with, like I say, last minute winners, like setting things up from set pieces. Even like, getting the 3rd goal at the weekend, like just putting the full stop on things, and like, in previous years, like they just didn't have that player, and he seems to just be a proper leader. And it's something that Arsenal have been missing, I think. Like, I know Odegaard's the captain, but like, they don't really seem to have any proper like vocal like I'll take the like put it on my back.
Yeah,
I'm taking us like we're gonna win this. And obviously you saw him do it at West Ham for ages, like, and he's doing the same for Arsenal.
It's what made him such a good signing for them because, like I say, even though he wasn't going to walk in and be club captain, you can pretty much guarantee if there's a game where Odegaard's not available, he'll end up having the armbands. It'll be like end up being vice captain or like whatever. But even without the armband and being an official captain, he'll be a leader in that dressing room because he's been captain of a Premier League football club. He's been playing in Europe for 4 years prior to that, right, or 3 or 4 years prior to that. And like I say, like in terms of carrying a team on his back and stuff, I think you saw that in parts at West Ham, but I think because of the system that he played in, didn't really allow for him to pop up and score, make runs in the box and score goals and all that sort of thing. Usually, if you get up there, there'd be no one else around him, so it'll make things a little bit more difficult. Everyone's back playing like fullback.
But no, like to sub you if you go over the halfway line.
Yeah, basically. Because I think Moyes gave him license to get forward, but had no idea how to actually utilize that. Whereas, like with Souček, he had a plan. Like how to get Souček goals.
He's massive. Kick
he decided to switch and go, no, I want Declan to be the one to go more forward now. I think he just tried to make him another Thomas Souček, where obviously he's just a lot better than that. But yeah, I think like I said, when it gets to the proper end of the season, I think we said we'll do like a little end of year like awards roundup thing. I think he's definitely a massive shout for signing of the season.
I think even without the stupid awards we're going to do, like I think just signing of the season. There's not really any others I can think that have had. There's been good signings at different clubs this season, but in terms of how transformative he's been for the Arsenal team, even if they end up not winning it, like, and I've said said previously, and I'll stand by it. Like, Arsenal finished second last year and didn't win a trophy. If they if they do the same this year, have they actually progressed? I think that they look better, but I think you're going to be starting to enter the territory of like, okay, if the same thing happens next year or there's even a drop off, it's like how many times can you finish second and not win anything before you start going, maybe we need someone who knows how to get them over the line, like get an actual winning manager. Bring Klopp back.
I early shout. I think they'll do it next year, but we'll see. Depends who they buy in the summer, right? If they get I think we've said before, if they get like an Isak or a striker of that ilk, then they'll be a force to be reckoned with, I think. But yeah, definitely. Time will tell.
Yeah, well, hopefully, it also depends whether Man City are thrown down at the Czech League as well. So,
because that's coming up in the near future. So that could be any time between now and the end of time.
Yeah.
So we'll have to wait.
Between now and the rapture.
Yeah, basically. So, like, nice and vague as always from the Premier League. There, nice to get some clarity for once.
Yeah.
Does my head in.
Yeah. Yeah, they're not the best, are they? But well, I think we've covered most of the talking points this year. We've kept it brief on the disappointing recent form of ourselves. I had a slight meltdown, but I kind of got that out of my system before we even recorded the pod. So I'm just gonna go and run a nice hot bath and chuck a toaster in it. So
I don't know what I'm going to talk about next week. Let's say we're playing Luton and Moyes is gone. There's not going to be anything to talk about from West Ham point of view next week. So
well, the impending Arsenal defeat to Man United is going to
be
honestly
there'll be a lot of pivotal games coming up, right? So
if we beat Arsenal, I'm going to need 2 hours.
When do that's nice. I was before. I was hoping Spurs would play City first. So can you imagine? It's like Spurs somehow get a draw against City, because I still maintain, I know they're in crap form at the moment, but City's record at Spurs is not good.
Yeah,
and I think that will play on their minds a little bit. So imagine if Spurs had got a draw.
Yeah,
and then Arsenal go and just lose to United. It's like, you had it.
It'd be the most Football Manager. All we need to do is beat the worst team in the league. No! You want both of your centre backs get sent off in the first half.
David Raya just trips over his own feet and loses the ball in the halfway line. Like,
again,
we've all been there.
Oh God. Well, thank you for tuning in, everyone, to another week of mine and Breezy's therapy hour. We'll be back, as we say, next week. Hopefully there's some other things to happen. When's the championship playoff kind of come to the end? That's not for a couple of weeks, is it yet?
Oh no, well, I think that'll be very soon actually. So I believe the upcoming fixture for that will be Sunday the 12th. So next weekend, playoff start.
Yeah.
So it'll be Norwich versus Leeds and then West Brom v Southampton, first legs.
Well, we'll have a bit of that to discuss as well. Also, Champions League and European happenings as well, and we can have a bit of a preview on how they're all kind of fleshing out. We'll know the final by then, won't we? So that'll be interesting to talk about.
Come on, Dortmund! Come on, Dortmund!
Honestly, if I think I tweeted this out. If Dortmund win the Champions League over Harry Kane Bayern Munich, honest to God, there will be no bigger. I will never be more convinced that there is such a thing as curses if that happens.
Yeah, managed by a former West Ham first team coach as well. Like we have to claim that, stick up in the stadium.
Yeah,
with a little asterisk. Like 2024 Champions League, sort of.
Yeah, kind of 2 European trophies in West Ham's cabinet, still none in Spurs'.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right, well, thank you for joining me once again, and thank you for tuning in, everyone. As always, wherever you're watching this, listening to this, leave a thumbs up, leave a like, share it around, tell your friends, and don't forget to follow on all the socials. It's at United Frontcast, and get involved in next week's discussion as well. Take it easy, guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.